Arch Grants was founded to help foster and create an entrepreneurial culture here in St. Louis, and joining me is now the Executive Director of Arch Grants, Ginger Imster. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
So this is gonna be a positive St. Louis segment, aren't we? We're
Yes.
gonna talk about good things. Why don't you remind people, because people hear Arch Grants all the time, you know, in the media, but might not be familiar with what the organization does.
Yes, so we're a nonprofit founded in 2012, and the initial thought was if we could leverage philanthropy and entrepreneurship to basically rejuvenate economic development in the city, why not try? And the premise was that if we could invest in the best and brightest locally, but also those around the world, then we might stand a better chance of really, seeding an early stage business community, because so much of the emphasis had been placed on retaining existing established businesses, which is exceedingly important, and then the attraction of larger, big employers, very important. But we know from this economy that Express Scripts, Monsanto, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they started as startups, and if we're not equally as deliberate about that early stage business community, then we're missing out.
So let's talk, you've kind of brought up two things. There's retention and recruitment. I think a lot of people know about the recruitment side, which is like recruiting entrepreneurs, but explain more about that part.
So we have two nationally ranked schools of entrepreneurship in St. Louis, one at SLU and one at Washington University, and both produce graduates that we want to have stay in St. Louis. And so we work to leverage the Arch Grants as an incentive to get local graduates to stay, and also to look at the local entrepreneur community who may or may not be graduates of those institutions, but who have terrific ideas in industries that we know can be successful in this market, and what are we doing to really cultivate the growth of their businesses in this community, and we believe that Arch Grants can do that for them too.
So what are sort of the selling points when you are trying to recruit people here, whether they are people who are from here but or not? What becomes the hook? Why St. Louis?
St. Louis has a marvelous location. It's what worked to really create the city as the East Coast of the Midwest many, many years ago, right? Because we have a marvelous port through which an enormous amount of tonnage comes through each year. We are directly in the middle of the country, so in terms of interstate rail, river, air, we have access to all that, and so for shipping and any type of import-export, it can be a marvelous location. Manufacturing, biotech, this community has the highest concentration of plant PhDs in the world, so from a biotech community, there's a tremendous amount of talent, recognized talent in this community. Manufacturing, we know it exists. There is more and more activity around supporting our local manufacturers, and so we're very excited to have companies in that space as well. And then consumer products and software are products and companies that can really exist anywhere, but we have a very exciting group of young entrepreneurs who see this market as an emerging market for that type of work, and they see themselves as being able to bring brands to life in this community and garner tremendous traction. So we're very excited to work with them as well.
So let's talk about specifically in the name, Arch Grants, the grants, how this actually works from sort of the procedural level.
Yes, so folks apply. The competition is year-round. They apply from around the world. We've had several thousand applicants since the competition launched in 2012, and we have awarded grants to 76 companies. We've invested $4.2 million in those 76 companies, largely through the $50,000 Arch Grant. And that remains our brand. It's a $50,000 equity-free Arch Grant that requires 51% of a team to locate in St. Louis for 12 months. And those are very distinct differences in comparison to other startup competitions, both domestically and globally, where they might have a residency requirement, but it might not be longer than 3 or 6 months. And the 51% is significant too, because that means a majority of a team has to co-locate here together, because our expectation is that they're putting down roots here and we're doing everything we can to get them to want to stay.
And when you look back at that first cohort, I mean, those companies, those businesses, those entrepreneurs, they're still here?
Many of them are still here, yeah. So when you look at the portfolio of 76, 71 are still in business, and of the 71 still in business, about 89% are still in St. Louis. So we see that as a very strong indicator for our capacity to bring entrepreneurs here and to also retain entrepreneurs who are already here. In addition to that, there's this interesting phenomenon, the boomerangs. So there are individuals who were raised in St. Louis or went to school in St. Louis and left. And the Arch Grant becomes an incentive for them to return. And it's very exciting to see those boomerang individuals as well.
Yeah, no, that's good, because you always hear the counter to that, which is like the brain drain. So it's good to always hear the strengthening of the boomerang.
It does, the boomerang. It works, it can work. Yeah.
Well, if you want more information on grants, we've got the Arch Grants, we've got the information there on your screen. Again, a nonprofit organization created 5 years ago to create entrepreneurial culture and infrastructure here in St. Louis. To apply for the grants or to learn more, go visit archgrants.org. But we're just going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about some events coming up with Arch Grants, so please stay with us. We'll be right back.